Alright, here we go. We're going to trim this down to size first.
So when I started out, this guy was about 3/4 of an inch thick, and that's just too thick for a sword. So I ripped it down first, and now I'm going to cut the blade shape here. I don't think this is real important to get it exactly perfect. Now that I have the cutting edge dialed in, I can use this wing divider with the pencil, and I'll go ahead and scribe a line off of my finished cutting edge, and that'll give me a perfectly parallel line to the cutting edge. I've seen a lot of woodworkers make wooden swords on YouTube, but I've never seen a knife maker make a wooden sword, so here we go. I'm going to show you how a knife maker would use knife making skills to make a sword out of wood. It is incredibly strange for me to operate these machines and not have sparks flying, fire breathing things. Here I'm just further cleaning up the profile of the blade shape. And now I'm going to go ahead and get the tang fit. This is the part of the sword that will fit within the handle.
Okay, now since it is wood, and since my kids are going to be sparring with this and another wooden sword, I decided to leave it fairly thick so it doesn't break right off the bat. And since I'm leaving it thick, let's go ahead and add a fuller. Full-length fuller. And I'm just going to give myself a reference point here on both sides of the blade so I know how high I want to take that fuller.
This was probably the hardest part of the build. Grinding this fuller straight with the grain of the wood pulling the small wheel attachment in both directions was actually fairly difficult. I think it's actually easier to do this in steel than it is in this wood that I'm using. Hey guys, if you're getting some enjoyment out of this, getting some value, hit the thumbs up.
It's already making sword noises. Did you hear that? I'm scribing a center line. These are going to be my grind 2 lines for grinding in my bevels. See my railroad tracks right down the center? That's what I'm going to grind my bevels to. I'm going to grind my bevels from that track right up to my fuller.
This is how I would grind the bevels on a real sword. So why not do it the same way on a wooden sword?
Ooh, look at that sword. It's coming together. It's looking like a sword now. I'm gonna bring it in here. We're gonna do Honduran rosewood for the handle, and for the suba, we're gonna do this in boinu burl.
I needed to cut the handle material in half so that I can mill a slot in the middle of the handle material to receive the tang of the sword. Ooh, that's pretty. Here we're milling the slot in the guard. And this is the slot that I'm milling into the handle material that'll receive the tang. Man, that is a nice fit. I'm using the same small wheel from my grinder to wrap my sandpaper around to go ahead and sand out the fuller. That's the exact same radius. And this is a knife maker tip right here. This is my bevel jig that I use to keep things true and clean for when I set the tsuba. Here's the tsuba material completely out of whack. I went ahead and added some new lines to grind to square this piece up to the tang. There it is, all squared up. Now here you can see I've drawn some 45s on the corners. That way we can grind the corners off and start adding some shape. Now it's kind of blocky right now, so I'm going to step over to my horizontal grinder and I'm going to add some radiuses to it. I've got some nice points that I can grind to as reference, so I'm just going to grind a nice radius right in the middle until it touches both of those corners. There it is. Time for glue up. Slather some glue on both sides of the handle and we're going to get it clamped up. One thing I don't show you here is I did clean out that inside track before I clamped it up. This is 24 hours later. Ooh, look at that, nice and snug. Let's get this cleaned up. Instead of just walking up to the grinder and hacking away at this thing, I like to draw some guidelines. So I draw a line on all four corners like this, and that gives me a reference point to grind the corner off. Once I've grind all four corners off and they're all equal to each other, then I can lay the piece on end and start to round my corners over. It's a really good trick to keep things straight, especially when you're trying to grind ovals or circles. Try it out. Here's the part where I take those flat facets and I start to round them over. And the final glue up. Here I'm setting the tsuba. I'm going to put a little glue around it. This is a 2-part epoxy. It's a 5-minute pot time, so you got to work quick. Then I fill the handle with glue and shove it on.
Alright guys, we're all wrapped up. We built the wooden katana. We did do a fuller on this with Honduran rosewood and a really neat ambonia wood tsuba right here and the white oak blade. These were just kind of scrap pieces that I had laying around and my children wanted a sword, so I made them one. I think you guys should subscribe to the channel because I'm going to build this out of steel next and it's going to be really cool, so you're not going to want to miss out on that. If you're new to the channel, definitely subscribe. I've got some really neat stuff in the pipeline coming to the channel. If you guys like build videos, I'm going to put a link to a card right here that shows a playlist of a whole bunch of different build videos for swords and knives. And if you're interested in building a sword or a knife, I also specialize in tutorial videos where I break down all the different processes of knife making and sword making for you and try to make it easy. And you'll notice in the comments, I always answer back. If you guys have questions, leave me a comment down in the comment section and I'll take care of you there. Thanks guys, I'll catch you next time.